LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you have an event or occasion coming up that could use a special touch? Perhaps a wedding, a production, a show? Good! Then you're in luck. Hayley Moores is who you're looking for. Hayley is a makeup artist in the Toronto, Ontario area, specializing in bridal, glam, natural, and special effects. She's incredibly talented, professional, easy to work with, and has a personality that is second to none. To book Hayley Moores today, follow her on Instagram at mad_milash, that's MAD_MILASH, or email her at madmilash, again, that's MADMILASH @gmail.com. Book Hayley Moores today, you'll be glad you did. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you find yourself reminiscing on what life was like when you were younger? Do your favorite songs, movies, and TV shows instantly take you back to a simpler time? Great! Then you're in the right place. Join me, Leigh Dickey, on my new web series and podcast, Yo Nostalgia, where I cover everything you grew up with. From films and toys to fads and trends, Yo Nostalgia has it all. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are available. Follow along on social media at Yo Nostalgia Show to keep up on this time-traveling trip. Yo Nostalgia, breathing new life into your memories, available everywhere now. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. This week, a follow-up to my 6-month beard update episode from last week, where I take 2 photos of myself, one from 13 years ago, 2007, where I had no hair on my head and no facial hair, and one from 2 weeks ago, where I had a full head of hair and a full beard, and contrast them right here for you on the Beats and Speaks podcast. And I also tell you about a poll that I put up earlier this week concerning those 2 photos, and asked which photo of me or which version of me you liked best, the one where I had a full head of hair and a full beard from 2 weeks ago, or the photo where I had no hair on my head and had no facial hair whatsoever and was completely clean shaven, looked like a crystal ball, and basically looked like I could have granted you 3 wishes back then. But I'm going to contrast those photos, and I'm going to tell you what I think of each of those pictures and what I think I like best about both pictures right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast, and use this as a follow-up to last week's episode where I gave you a 6-month beard update. But before we get into the main event, before we get into why you're really here, I want to tell you where you can find the Beats and Speaks podcast. Of course, new episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast go live every single Friday on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com. We're on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV. You can find all those links in the description. If you want to follow along on social media, you can do that as well. Please do at LEIGHTDICKEY. If you want to get in touch and possibly be a guest on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, please do email me at LEIGHTDICKEY@gmail.com and we can set something up. Please do comment, like, share, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app and player of choice, as well as my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Now that all that housekeeping is out of the way, let's get to the main event. Why you're here, the contrast of 2 photos of me, one where I have a full beard and a full head of hair, and one where I'm completely clean shaven and look like a pool ball, right here on a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Alright, so yes, the contrast of these 2 photos of yours truly, Leigh Dickey, right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast. One where I've got a full head of hair and a full beard, and one where I basically look like a billiard ball. No hair on my head and no facial hair whatsoever to speak of. But how this whole thing came about was I just wanted to have a little fun, even at my own expense, where I put up a poll on my Instagram profile and my Instagram stories and my page. You can follow along at LEIGHTDICKEY, by the way. All the information will be in the show notes and description, where I asked, which version of me do you guys like best? And the resounding majority of the voters, the final tally was 32-4, in favor of me having a full head of hair and a full beard. I don't know whether or not that means I look more chiseled or I'm more attractive, but 32 votes for me having a full head of hair and a full beard, 4 votes for that older photo from 13 years earlier where I was completely clean shaven, had no hair and no facial hair, and pretty much looked like a crystal ball and could grant you 3 wishes. To be honest, I didn't think it was going to be, I didn't think that many people would vote. There are 36 votes cast entirely, and I know a lot of people did view that story and voted in the poll, because obviously, like I said, it was 32-4. So when it's 32-4 in favor of me having a full head of hair and a full beard over not having a full head of hair and not having any facial hair, I think that basically says a lot about what I look like 13 years later, what I look like now, how I feel about myself now, and how I feel that I look. And to be quite honest, like I said last week, this beard I've only had about 6 months, and I think I'm going to keep it. Okay, I'm at that point where, yes, this is a good thing. People are reacting to me more, and it's more in a positive way. So I'm going to keep the beard because I'm just enjoying having the facial hair, because people are just, oh, you look good with it. It suits you. And to be quite honest with you, it kind of makes me feel all warm and fuzzy on this 2 Celsius degree day. And for those of you that are wondering what that is in Fahrenheit, that's about 35.6, maybe 36 degrees, somewhere in there, 35.5, 35.6 to 36 degrees. So yes, it's cold, and to be quite honest, the one of the benefits to having a beard is, well, in the winter and in Toronto, where this show happens to be coming to you from and is produced out of, because I happen to live here in Toronto, Ontario, it gets cold for a good portion of the year, and a beard is like a natural scarf. It's almost like a natural blanket, if you will, for your face. So I'm happy I decided to grow one, right? So the fact is, 32 people, 91% of the people that voted in that poll think I look better and prefer me with a full head of hair and a full beard. Now, I'm sure even more of you would prefer that I didn't wear a hat as much as I do, but it's just an idiosyncrasy of mine, and I happen to wear a baseball hat or any kind of hat a lot of the time, the majority of the year anyhow. But I'm learning to not wear one as much, and I do enjoy not wearing a baseball hat as much as I usually would. But the days where it gets a bit colder, I'm going to throw a hat on, and just to try and keep myself warm. So those 2 photos, the photo with me where I have a full head of hair and a full beard, that was taken 2 weeks ago, right after a haircut from my guy Tony at Hair by Jingles in Scarborough, Ontario. These guys have been in business 38 years. Give them a call today at 416-431-4400 to book an appointment. They're located at 655 McCowan Road. I go to this, Tony's a friend of mine. I'm friends with him and his family. They're great people. And I go to him every once in a while, probably like once a month, once every 2 months, to basically get cleaned up. And he asked me when I was in his salon a couple weeks ago if we were trimming up the beard as well as getting a haircut. I said, well, you know, I'm never going to say no, because he's been in business 38 years. He knows what he's doing, and he's got a steady hand, and he's just a good dude. So I'll say, hey, you can if you want. If you want to trim it, go right ahead. I had no problem with him doing it because I trust him, right? And to be quite honest, my beard was probably hanging down to just about where the mic is that I'm wearing on this headset. So, and that's just about, just above my Adam's apple. Like, it was just the hair on my chin was hanging down to about just above my Adam's apple, if not just at my Adam's apple. Like, it was long. It was getting a bit poofy and getting long. So that photo was from 2 weeks ago, where he basically cleaned me up, trimmed up the beard, and I was happy that he did my chin part, because you can actually tell that I have a chin now, right? Whereas where I would just let it grow, and the hair underneath my chin just got long and long and long, and you couldn't tell where it ended and my chin began. So it's cool that he trimmed that up, and he trimmed up the rest of it too. So Tony, thank you very much. And the funny thing is, I even said this in last week's episode, I think that if I'm not wearing a hat and I have the beard that I have now, I kind of look like Richard Karn from Home Improvement, Al Borland, just with, darker hair. I think it suits me, honestly. I like having the beard. And that was a cool photo. And I guess a lot of people like that picture of me, or at least any picture of me where I'm not wearing a hat. But for the most part, people are receptive with me not having, or with me having a beard, so that's cool. I guess, like I said, a lot more people are, they're warmer towards me now that I have facial hair, which is, I never thought that would happen, but what do you know, it did. And, I'm happy that it did, and I'm happy that I am where I am with the beard. And to be quite honest with you, I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life, for as long as I can, for as long as life will let me have it. When it comes to that older photo where I'm bald, I have no hair on my head, and I have no facial hair, that was actually taken 13 years ago at my senior prom. And I decided that day, I remember this day like it was yesterday, where I just wanted to go clean shaven. If I had no facial hair, which I didn't, I was gonna I might as well shave as much off as I can. So I called, my best friend, my buddy Richie, and he and I have been friends about 17 years now. I called him. I said, "Look, can you do me a favor?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Listen, I have a barber kit. It's got clippers and what have you. Can you just shave my head?" Because I had some hair back then, but I had basically the same hairstyle where I pretty much, had a zero on my head for 8 years. And obviously, when I had the same hairstyle from the age of 14 to the age of 22. And obviously, your senior prom usually happens when you're about 17, 18. So that falls in that 8-year run, that 8-year time frame. And I called him. I said, "Look, can you do me a favor? I need you to cut my hair, and I need you to shave my head." And I'm surprised he agreed to do it at that time. He's like, "Yeah, sure." He's a good dude, and, I love him to death. So the fact that he came over to my house and he shaved my head for me, I am forever indebted to him for doing that. But I don't know, I was kind of, like, that was my thing, to kind of be as clean shaven as I possibly could. So, like, no hair on top of my head and no facial hair. Plus, like, I had jobs where you had to have, back in those days, you had to have short hair. So I just had none. And, like, facial hair wasn't necessarily looked upon as an acceptable thing. So that's why I kept my hair so short on both accounts, my facial hair and the hair on my head. I look back at that photo and I think, you go back to your high school days when you look back at pictures when you're like 17, 18, and those were some good times. And I look back on those days fondly, especially that night at prom. It was a good time. I remember I was done up in a suit. I had a tie on. I kind of felt like an executive. I kind of felt like the Mac back in those days. You know what I mean? It was a lot of fun for me to wear that suit, that tie, and then, be completely clean shaven. Because people would come up and I guess because I kept that look for so long, it just became the norm, right? Like, I kept that look from the end of 8th grade all the way through, like, the end of college into, say, like, the middle of university for me. And then I started letting it grow back. And I'm happy I let it grow back still, right? I'm happy I let my hair grow back. And I'm happy that even now at my age that I finally just was like, you know what? I'm going to grow a beard. I'm going to grow a facial hair. I'm going to let it grow in and not really care about what anybody thinks. Not that I ever have, but it was just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to let my facial hair grow in and I'm going to see what happens and see how people react, which is cool. Like, I love how people are reacting to the facial hair and the new haircut. And I'm enjoying having it. And yes, I will probably wear baseball hats and stuff less, but just to see the amount of votes that were cast in that poll, where do you guys like how I look in 2020 or did you guys like how I look in 2007? It's two different pictures of me. I mean, aside from like my face, which hasn't really changed much, but it's two different photos of me. It's two very different ends of the spectrum, and it's cool to just see people's reactions. So like a resounding 32-4 in favor of me having a full head of hair and a full beard. And I think I'm going to keep this full head of hair and full beard for as long as I can until the end of time. 91% of people said I look better in that poll, said that I look better with facial hair and like the full beard and a full head of hair. And my friends and family think the same thing for the most part, and I'm happy that they do. To the people that voted, thank you for voting. I appreciate it. But I think we're going to keep this full head of hair and a full beard. That's just what I wanted to do this week. Give you guys a contrast of those two photos and give you the results of that poll. The 2020 version of LEIGHTDICKEY and the Beats and Speaks podcast is here to stay. I'm going to keep this full head of hair. I'm going to keep the full beard. And we're just going to rock it from here on out until the end of time. But this has been another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I am your host, LEIGHTDICKEY. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a review on your favorite podcast app and player of choice, as well as my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Get in touch on social media and through email at LEIGHTDICKEY and LEIGHTDICKEY@gmail.com. But we will see you all and talk to you all next Friday for a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Until next week, have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. I'm LEIGHTDICKEY. This has been the Beats and Speaks podcast, and I am signing off. Peace. LEIGHTDICKEY.com